Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Civic University Network webinar on universities and students and civic engagement to launch the toolkit from Student Hubs and the UPP Foundation on the One Community Forum, a really innovative model to support place-based student volunteering, both for the benefit of the student experience, but of course, local communities and places too. My name is Richard Brabner. I'm the director of the UPP Foundation, and we're involved in this webinar today because of our partnership with Student Hubs, where we have funded over the last few years the One Community Forum, which has seen brilliant results in towns and cities across the country, including an initiative during COVID, which was delivered virtually with all of Student Hubs' all the places that Student Hubs engage with to support student volunteering to reduce youth inequality, and it had some fantastic results. So we're here to launch Student Hubs' Toolkit, which is going to be published just after this webinar. And just to run you through some of the T's and C's for today's event, please get your questions in and send them in the Q&A function rather in the chat. It should be noted that today's webinar is going to be recorded, so please be aware of that. And then just to remind you of the format, we're going to have a presentation from Sim and Fiona from Student Hubs, followed by a student panel of participants in the Student Hubs program, and then we're going to have a Q&A. Yeah, do get your questions ready. Please sign up to the newsletters, both from the Civic University Network, Student Hubs, and the UPP Foundation. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Sim.
Thanks, Richard. I'm going to do a very brief introduction to Student Hubs, and then I'm going to pass over to Fiona to really get into the weeds of the toolkit. So Student Hubs, we exist to empower university students to become active citizens, equipping them with the tools, behaviours and skills that they need to make positive change. Our initiatives are a bridge between students and their communities, operating on a double benefit model, building connections and mainstreaming student social action to help create active citizens for life. For the past 15 years, we've delivered a wide range of programmes and projects in partnership with UK universities. And we believe that when students are supported to learn about social challenges, are able to connect with each other, and are provided meaningful, structured opportunities to do something about them, both communities and students benefit. Communities benefit from the insight, capacity and enthusiasm students can provide, and students develop key skills and strengthen their sense of belonging, which support them to leave university on that path to becoming an active citizen. The need for this work has never been greater, with growing challenges around how universities can best support students and the communities they're situated in. We really need to be moving towards this idea of one joint shared community. We're incredibly excited to share the work we've been doing with the support of the UPP Foundation over the past 5 years, and taking a look at how deeper connections can be forged between an institution and its place, working as equal partners in addressing shared challenges. I hope this session leaves you inspired and perhaps challenged to think of ways this can be delivered within your own work. I'm going to pass over to Fiona now to actually talk about the toolkit.
Thanks very much, Sim. On to the next slide, please. And the next one, wonderful. So I'm going to talk a bit about the One Community Forum Toolkit. This has been a real pleasure for me to put together. So to give a bit of background about who I am and what I do. So in my current role at Student Hubs, I'm the Partnerships and Development Director. So I spend a lot of time talking to universities about the power of student social action and thinking about how they can get more involved with their communities. But in another lifetime, not so long ago, back in 2018, I actually delivered our Southampton Hubs version of the One Community Forum, and it's been a real pleasure for me to deliver 4 One Community Forums since that time. And what I've really seen is that every event has been so different, and I think the difference made has been by the fact that they have been place-based. And I think that's such an important lens through which we should be looking at all of our opportunities at the moment, both in curricular, extracurricular, thinking about our volunteering offer, but particularly when we think about our students and communities and what they really need now. Richard mentioned our COVID virtual event, which I'll talk a little bit about in this section. But it was really important to think about how we could bring people together to tackle local challenges. And I'm sure lots of you from your institutions will have really seen that over COVID, how institutions have really pulled together to think about supporting students, supporting communities, to really mobilising that resource. And ultimately, we want that work to continue, and we want to keep serving communities and serving students. So as Sim said, hopefully this can be an inspiration to one method through which you could do this in the future. But first, let's talk about the forum and what actually is it. So next slide, please. So what is the One Community Forum? What does it actually mean? So back in 2017, we started a funded relationship with the UPP Foundation to think about how we could deliver and pilot these events. And that went all the way from 2017 to 2021. So in terms of what they look like in character as an event, they were 2 to 3 hour events. So really kind of a meaty chunk of time to think about how can we start to really get into these discussions around what does it mean to kind of be place-based and to think about, you know, the social issues that are impacting our local areas. Typically, every forum had a theme or a structure to it. These can vary, and we give you some examples in the toolkit of how you can do this. So to give some examples in our context, in our very first event that we held in Oxford in 2017, that was actually focused around the local council strategy and their objectives around how they wanted to see kind of work developing on Oxford, and thinking about how the university and students could align with that work. Our event in Southampton as well also thought about areas like health and well-being, supporting young people to have a good future. Our COVID event, which was virtual, not in person, as you can imagine, thought about how can we tackle educational attainment, and we knew that there was a real challenge happening, particularly for 7 to 14-year-olds. So being really specific about the young people that we wanted to reach through that event, and how we wanted to really focus the landscape of what that work could look like in practice across our partner universities. So I think the beauty of the forum is that it can be molded to whatever your university or your institution's priorities are. And I think that's really important, that you get the theme right. And that's one of the big tasks that I think happens as part of the forum, is really thinking what do we want to achieve? What do we want to go out to do? And getting that theme right is a huge part of that. So what does the event actually do in practice? Ultimately, it is about bringing together stakeholders from the university, bringing together students, and bringing together community organisations and individuals together all in one room to discuss the theme or the challenges that is in that local area. We, in the One Community Forum, we talk about, you know, how can we think about the structures that are upheld by universities, by kind of the work that we do within communities. And it's so important to involve communities and students as equal partners in this work. And we think that actually starts at the point of conversation, at the point of conception of these ideas. Those people should be in the room, and this forum is about offering you an opportunity to bring those individuals into the room. One of the most tangible outputs that we see as part of this One Community Forum format is the fact that you will get challenges raised, you'll get barriers raised. It's about understanding, you know, what is holding us back, what is holding back students from participating in great activities, what's holding the community back from developing that closer relationship with the university, what's holding the university back from wanting to do these amazing things in communities, but perhaps not having that knowledge or that understanding of what is actually needed at that time. So really it's about starting that conversation. It's not do the forum, we've achieved it, that's great. It is the starting point to a much longer journey, and we talk about that in the toolkit as well. Next slide, please. So why should you do this? Before we sort of look at the toolkit and a bit about what it can offer, why do this in the first place? So I wanted to look through this at the kind of lens of university, of community, and of student as well. So this is a quote from one of the university attendees that came to our 2017 event, and they shared that it was really about a great platform to helping to align their efforts and their county-wide goals, to share experiences with the public and the private and charitable organisations in Oxford, and work really collaboratively to supporting the Oxfordshire youth sector. So thinking about, how as a university can you really leverage the fact that there are lots of people in your community who have lots of ideas and thoughts about how you can be supporting them, or how you could be doing more to support specific groups in that community. So really helping the university to pinpoint and understand who is it that we're trying to serve through our civic strategy, through maybe a specific initiative we're running. What is it that they need from us, and how can we really kind of tailor those resources and those activities to support those groups? Next slide, please. So thinking about why this benefits the community. So this is a quote from a teacher who came along to our 2020 Virtual One Community Forum, and they really highlighted that it was a brilliant event to come to, that they felt really connected with other people, particularly other teachers from other schools who came along to that virtual event. But also it really helped them to understand and to recognise the value that students bring to their work in their local school, to the community and beyond that, and thinking about how without their support and without their partnership, those opportunities really aren't possible for students. And particularly where we saw the impact of that programme was thinking about, how can we tackle the issues that have come out of COVID around educational disadvantage and attainment. One of the statistics that we saw from our students who were going out and doing tutoring was that 50% of them said they were more likely to take a career in education as a result of engaging with that activity. So thinking about not just supporting our teachers and supporting our schools for today, but also supporting them for the future in the kind of the next generation of young people, of students who are going to come through our universities and go out into those sectors and support. Next slide, please. And then finally thinking about students as well. So really at the moment, times, as we know, are really tough for students. They have a lot on their plates. But what certainly isn't lacking in students is the appetite and the engagement that they have for issues that is really meaningful for them, and how they can support, how they can go out and really channel that energy into the community. And the One Community Forum is a great way of doing that, and really understanding what does it mean for students to want to participate in their community? What does that look like? Where do they want to channel their energies? And how can we as universities scaffold that support for them? So something that we saw from students that we talked to as part of the activities that we launched after the One Community Forum included sort of them getting more experience, putting themselves out of their comfort zone, getting comfortable and being confronted with sort of challenges of things they haven't done before, whilst also doing something that was genuinely meaningful and passionate to them. So I think that is really important in terms of, how can we support students to tackle the wicked problems of our day, whether that is climate change, whether that's environmental action, whether that's homelessness or food poverty. Students really care about these issues, and what we need is to understand how we can better support them to go and do these amazing things in our community. So I am going to share my screen now, and I will show you the toolkit and what you can expect to see. So we will be sharing this after the event. But in terms of the toolkit, it's quite long, so put some time in for some reading, but we hope that this will be really helpful for you. And we've kind of created different sections as part of this toolkit for you to really go through and have a think about how you can use this really practically. So I would say sort of sections 1 to 4 are thinking more about the kind of the history, the context, the why of why should you do this? Why should you bring this format to your institution and to your university? It also outlines a bit of the context about student hubs and what our background is and how we've used this kind of format and our history of delivering One Community forums at different institutions, which is great. Moving on to kind of section 5, which is where I think the toolkit really starts to come alive in terms of how it can support you and your institution. So I would say that thinking about section 5 is in 2 parts. So the first part is really about thinking of almost a crib sheet of kind of what do you want to achieve as part of the One Community Forum. And we give a lot of different kind of ideas around. It could be about strengthening links to your community. It could be about co-creating meaningful activities. It could be about creating community advocates. It could be about developing student skills, creating an evidence base for the future activities as well. I think all of these are relevant, but what you might find as an institution is there are a couple that really stick out to you. I think this would be a great activity to do as part of a team, as part of a meeting, to really dig into, if you want to do this event, why? What is the kind of value add that you will get from running a One Community Forum, and what is it that you want to achieve? Because that will help to shape how you craft this event, who you invite, what you want to get out of it. You'll get all of these benefits, but I think it's particularly important to have a think about what is the most important thing for you and really understanding that as an institution. On the other side of that, we've got your limiting factors. So everybody worked in different contexts. And I think something that we've really seen as part of delivering this One Community Forum model is that it's been really versatile in how we've been able to deliver it with multiple institutions. So institutions which are bigger, institutions which are smaller, institutions which are specialist. The format is so kind of moldable. It means that you can do whatever you like with it, which is great. But every institution will have their own limiting factors. So again, before you head into this, it's really important to understand what is it that maybe you need to work on, or what is it that actually you need to really, when you're thinking about your event planning, really craft that in. Is it that you know your kind of relationship locally with community organisations could use some developing? How does that then translate into how you recruit community organisations to take part in this event? Is it the fact that your student engagement has been really challenging? Say perhaps you've been doing other knowledge exchange activities and you know that you've had pilots and they haven't gone as well as you would like. What is it that you can do to really support student buy-in, student engagement with these types of events? Perhaps it's kind of the resource and the time, as we all know, that is really challenging. In the toolkit, we present what we call a journey map. So thinking about how can you not just plan this event, but plan 12, 18 months into the future to really think about how you can take this work forward. And thinking about mapping against your strategy. Lots of universities at the moment are thinking about their 2028, 2034 strategies, looking really far into the future. I think this work has massive longevity, but as long as it's kind of tied in to your strategic goals and as an institution. When we get to section 6 and 7, these are very practical. So thinking about, we've tried to make this as simple as possible for you. And again, you can use as much or as little of this toolkit as you like to really frame your delivery of a One Community Forum. And we tried to really cross this off for you in terms of thinking about how you could practically deliver this event, all the steps that we would recommend you taking as part of this work. You can see a lot of this toolkit will involve checklists. So again, we've tried to really streamline your thinking. So instead of you thinking, who should I invite to this event, who can come, we have lists like this that say, have you thought about the city council? Have you thought about your student union? Have you thought about your local volunteering services? Have you thought about your local MPs or councillors? So really trying to do a lot of that legwork of the logistics of planning an event. This toolkit will be really helpful in terms of you having a kind of helpful friend to say, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Something that we found really helpful, particularly when thinking about our event in COVID, which was around educational attainment, was actually doing something that we called a Pathfinder event. So actually before the One Community Forum, we gathered a selection of education charities, sort of experts in the field, to really deeply understand what challenges and what problems were at hand in that context. And what that meant was that we were able to really gather a lot of research and ideas that we could then present to our audience at the forum to really help them to understand what the issue was looking like, the kind of complexities involved, and how they could think about that when they were looking at their action planning. So again, we give really tight frameworks for how you can think about your agenda, putting together your resources, thinking about your actions and communications, again, with the idea that this will hopefully be a really easy guide for you to just take on and do and deliver in your local institutions. And the same goes for actually designing your One Community Forum. So we provide recommendations on size of events, so between 20 to 40 people. Ideally, it should be in person if that's possible. We have run it virtually, so that is possible too. Thinking about, what resources required. And then also thinking about after the forum, because I think that is where the real tangible value comes in. Having the forum event is brilliant, and you'll get lots of research and you'll get lots of info and information from that. But ultimately, you want to have a think about, what happens next. So in this, we've given you another event checklist, but specifically thinking about, that communication strategy. When should things happen? So, for example, we say this should take place, 2 to 3 months before the forum. This should happen, 2 days before the forum. This should happen in the week after the forum. And I think particularly around when we think about the buy-in and the trust piece around engaging community organizations, engaging students, they might have different perceptions of how long things might take in your institution to get going. They might expect results really quickly. It's really important for you, I think, to frame expectations around this event, but also to keep those attendees in the loop. And I think that's one of the things that we see is often students or community members can be quite disappointed if they feel like they've played a really valuable part in something, and then they've not seen the fruition of that work, or they've not understood what the next steps are. So really thinking about your communication plan. How do you keep those people that you've worked really hard to kind of get to your event and to get engaged, still engaged with the work that will come after that, and keeping them updated in the 3 months, the 6 months after that event with what has happened and what has been delivered. So finally, we come to section 8. So thinking about actually what does it look like to develop these activities from the forum. Richard gave some examples of some of the things that we delivered after our COVID event. And so one of the things that we saw as part of that was that the issues around educational attainment were not just limited to what happened in school, but also around the motivation of young people, around food insecurity at home, around digital exclusion at home. So we saw a lot of different projects that tackled a myriad of different things that were happening as part of that challenge of educational attainment, not just sending students into tutoring, which we did, but also thinking about other more innovative solutions that can happen as part of tackling that issue. So finally, this is the journey map that I talked about. So really, I guess, framing this work around, it's not just something that happens over the course of a few months. This is a really long-term strategy that you can embed into your activities, thinking about, how you can complete that cycle of running a forum, delivering some activities, evaluating them, adapting them, and then 12 to 18 months later, really thinking, do we need to do more? Is there another issue that has come up that we need to support our community with? How can we take this forward? So really, the toolkit, its aim is to support you in running this event, to give you a really practical guide about how you can actually do and deliver this activity in real life, and what that can look like, and what kind of planning and what will be needed as part of that. So in addition to that, at the very end of this toolkit, you will see an example case for support, because we recognise that you might need a resource, you might need budget, you might need kind of staff capacity to go towards this. And we've provided what will hopefully be a handy guide of how you could present this in a kind of case for support paper. So again, really kind of giving you all those practical resources to support you to get going with this. But that is the toolkit. We will be sharing this after this event, so you'll get a chance to look and read through all of this, and you can get in touch with us as well if you've got any questions. But what I want to do now is actually go over to our students who has helped run our recent event at University College Birmingham. If you have any questions that you would like us to answer at the end of this session, please do use the Q&A and we will get to those at the end. But for now, I will stop sharing and we will come to our 2 students, which is Chandan and Mewish. So have we got Mewish on screen? We have. So to kind of introduce this section and who these lovely smiling faces are. So we have ran the One Community Forum format at Student Hub since 2017. Since 2021, we thought about how we can kind of scale outside of the original pilot with the UPP Foundation. And we thought about how we can we can really kind of bring this format to other institutions and to other universities. So in 2022, we ran an event with Leeds Conservatoire, which is a kind of specialist institution thinking about music and performing arts. And this summer, we've been working with University College Birmingham to deliver another One Community Forum. So again, over the summer. And one of the things that has been really exciting, actually, as part of piloting this work outside of our partnership with the UPP Foundation over the past couple of years, is the fact that to run these activities, we've actually been able to hire what we've called sort of graduate interns or project officers who've been able to support us to deliver these activities on the ground. So it's been a brilliant opportunity for students and graduates. It's been a great development opportunity for them to really get hands-on with a different activity at a university. But also it's been brilliant in terms of the local knowledge they have brought to these projects and have been able to kind of add that own kind of expertise about what it means to kind of live in Leeds and deliver that event, or live in Birmingham and deliver that event. So first question for our students, I would love you to introduce yourselves and just to say what your role was in the One Community Forum at University College Birmingham. So Mewish, over to you first.
Hi everyone, my name is Mewish and I am a graduate from Aston University. I studied business and management. My role, part of the One Community Forum, was I was a project officer and I delivered the One Community Forum with University College Birmingham. As a project officer, I held meetings and interviews with community stakeholders, community organizations, as well as went into the university where I spoke to the staff and the students and held interviews to get to know more about what they think the issues in Birmingham are and how they as students would want to be involved in volunteering opportunities.
Thank you so much. Chandan, over to you.
Hello, I'm Chandan. I'm a current student at University College Birmingham and was an intern at UCB for the One Community Forum. My role was to assist in Mewish job role. Also did various surveys with students and encouraged them to sign up for the One Community Forum.
Thank you. Next question. It'd be great to hear from both of you. What was your highlight from the whole experience of delivering the One Community Forum?
For me, I think my highlight was being able to speak to loads of people. This included the community organizations. I was speaking to charities who are already doing a lot of work in Birmingham, and I was able to get their perspective and what they're focusing on and how they are tackling issues in Birmingham. And as a student who is just a recent graduate as well, got to know a lot more of this stuff that is going on in Birmingham. And also getting to speak to students and getting to know what they're locally doing, what they're volunteering in, and their interest in going forward and being part of different opportunities that can lead to a positive impact in Birmingham.
That's wonderful, thank you. Chandan, over to you.
I think for me, it's really the people who participated. It's the energy, the enthusiasm they brought to their discussion. We founded different solutions, people from different background. It was so inspiring to give their values, their ideas about the social issues in the community and the different solutions we got into.
That's wonderful. Thank you both. A different question for you. I think when we're doing this type of work, it's really important to recognise that it's not always easy to pull together lots of people in a room and to have these sort of discussions. So what do you think the challenges were in delivering an event like this?
The challenge that I thought it was to getting students coming to the One Community Forum. This was mainly at the time the event was held here at Birmingham was a little late, so end of July, and at that time many students are not at the university. But if it was done earlier or at another time, I definitely feel like students will definitely like to enjoy more. It's the way that we reach out to the students and be able to tell what the event is about, because when they hear the word One Community Forum or a forum, they can be like, oh, this time seems something like really big, and different organizations they will be able to talk to them and they're confident in them. So I think that's a bit of a challenge, but once we trade clearly to them and having the conversation with the students, and when they come, they really do like the event and would really want to be participant towards it.
Chandan, how about you?
Yeah, obviously it was a challenge, as Mewish said, was a different time of the uni. where we had not seen that many students, but also definitely it was a challenge as we wanted to make sure it was that one community forum was a welcoming space for people from different backgrounds and abilities, make sure they are comfortable in bringing up the issues that elsewhere was not discussed, to be comfortable in themselves and discuss with us.
Yeah, I think both of those are really great points. I think certainly thinking about students and wanting to really make sure that the students are engaged with that event. We've ran this event at Student Hubs all across the year. I would absolutely recommend kind of autumn and spring as great times to run these. You can run them in summer, as we've heard, can be a bit more challenging. But I think it also speaks to the versatility of this event, actually, that it is something that you can run all year round. And particularly, I really liked what you said there, Chandan, about inclusion and wanting people to feel welcome and to feel safe. And I think that is a big challenge that I think a lot of institutions have, is really thinking about the fact that we have to recognize the kind of power dynamics at play and kind of other experiences that students might bring into these kind of environments, or community members might have had other experiences or challenges or difficulties in the past. So really kind of recognizing the value that those groups have in bringing to that space, really doing your research, I think, as an institution to make sure that you've made that space as welcoming and inclusive as possible, is a big part of what we talk about in the toolkit, and how you can make that easier. And thinking about, you've got 3 different types of guests at this event, and in the toolkit we talk about different strategies for each type of guest of, how can you really support them to get the most out of this forum. So next question, one for Mewish, as you did a lot of work, particularly speaking to kind of community organisations, interviewing them and kind of hearing about what their challenges were in Birmingham. What impact do you think running the One Community Forum and all the other activities that you delivered as part of this work had on the community of Birmingham?
I feel like it allowed them to be aware of the different opportunities out there, and also be aware of the issues that they're tackling. It can be very easy, like just for example, as homelessness, we know this is an issue in Birmingham, but being able to have this event where they could actually speak about it and say how we could tackle this issue. And it also comes to the different demographics that are facing this issue. And it can also be like this was based with students. We know that some students were also facing homelessness as well. So it really allows you to be able to focus on an issue, go into more detail, and see how as an organization we can help tackle this. And I think each organization that came to the event had like their own perspective and view on stuff. And it became a place where everyone was sharing the ideas and as well as giving the solutions. And we were on the spot coming up, oh, I work with this person. Oh yeah, we did work with this person, and they were collaborating together and coming up with solutions and ideas to go forward. So on the Birmingham community, I would say it became a place where everyone's like working together collaboratively, trying to fix these issues and making it a better place for students and themselves.
That's really lovely. Thank you for sharing that. Thinking about Chandan as well, you did a bit of work chatting to students about sort of volunteering and their experiences. What impact, same question, what impact do you think doing these types of activities have on students and their interest in getting involved in volunteering or other social action?
Obviously, One Community Forum was a platform it's a bridge between students, the uni students, and the community, wherein they feel like they are involved in community bringing and what their social issues are facing. Oftentimes we don't know what the social issues are facing, but One Community Forum really led a space to discuss the social issues which weren't discussed elsewhere. And obviously it's a valuable skill, valuable experience to put it on your CV. You can enter in, all the other students have felt that you can enhance your people skills, communication skills, leadership qualities, and critical thinking. And also we can encourage people within the student community forum, what the students are facing. Many of the students had advised that they had the other social issues as international students, all different, coming from a different background. Their social issues, even that were discussed as well.
That's great. Thank you. Mewish, I know you spoke to lots of students as well. Anything that you want to add to that, or anything that maybe came from students that you think would be interesting to share?
I feel like this allowed students to use their voice, were able to speak out any issues that they were facing, and it really gave, as an organization, from my point of view, it gave me an idea on how I could go forward and take what they have said and put it into action. Sometimes what I've realized is what the issues that a community organization had and what the solution was the students, and all that was needed, it was like Chanda said, build that bridge and for them to be able to connect. So from speaking to the students, I was really looking at it and I was like, okay, this can all work. And if the actual outcome and aim of the One Community Forum was being able to build that bridge and be able to connect them.
That's great. Thank you. A final question for you both now. Why should universities do this? Why should universities run their own One Community Forums?
If you're looking upon the students' perspective, is because students have great ideas and they have great solutions to some of the issues that the community are facing. They have a lot of experience as well in the sectors, and they really want to go and be in part of a space where they're able to openly communicate the ideas and say what the worries are and how they can go ahead and tackling them. A lot of the students wanted to be part of volunteering opportunities, but they needed that support to be able to go reach to the volunteering organizations, how to go there, because if you look at it as Birmingham, there are so many different community organizations, but being able to connect to them is something that a student can get a bit worried about, or they don't have that confidence. So for universities to be able to go and speak to the students and be able to help them as well is great. And it also allows as a university to know that the rest of the community, that they're also supporting them, the local communities, and they are an education institute, but they're working together to make the community a better place.
Thank you. Shandan, same question.
I think it is like, for students like me who want to make a real difference in the community, it's an opportunity to give back to the community, events like One Community Forum. And also I think like the communities and other organizations must think that students are the active community members. They are the essential partners in creating a better future for the community. They can use the volunteering as a space, both beneficial in both ways for the students and community as well, providing them with beneficial with mental health care and valuable experience on the CV as well. And we need to work together, indeed, for a community, for a better future. It was a platform to meet with different people, from diverse people, and talk about the social issues and their problems.
Thank you. And thank you both really for sharing your experience. And definitely, if you take anything away from this to our attendees, really think about, how you can run this event, but also how you can involve your brilliant students, your your recent graduates. Like this format, I think, really lends itself to providing brilliant opportunities for students like Mewish and Chandan to get involved and to practically be part of that process, as well as attending the event, actually running and delivering the event. So you both know, but you've been absolutely brilliant. We've really loved working with you in Birmingham this summer, so thank you so much for all of your hard work, and best of luck with everything in the future. But before I head to Richard, and we'll move into our Q&A, so if you've got any questions, put them in the Q&A now, and we will come to them. But I just wanted to say, sort of from us at Student Hubs, we really hope that you will take this toolkit and run with it. We really want to hear about your university's plans. If you go ahead and deliver a One Community Forum, we'd love to hear all about it. If you want some help, want some support from us at Student Hubs to run and deliver your events, get in touch. I'm probably the best person to get in touch with at Student Hubs. But ultimately, I think what we want to leave you with is the fact that this forum is a real starting ground for some brilliant long-term strategic work as part of your civic strategies, as part of your student engagement strategies, as part of your community engagement strategies. I think the brilliant part of this event is it's so versatile and there's so much that you can do with it. So we are looking forward to seeing lots of innovative activities and initiatives happening across the year. And again, I really hope that this has inspired you to think more deeply about your activities. But I will hand back to Richard, and we can launch into our kind of Q&A and our wrap up for this event.
Thanks, Fiona. That was fantastic, and thank you to Marish and Chandan as well for their contributions. It was really inspiring. I think what we really love about this model is, I suppose, linking it back to our Civic University Commission, thinking about tailoring your activity, your civic activity, to the needs of your place, rather than just thinking about what you often do and what you provide, but actually really sort of having a robust analysis of that needs of the place. And in this context, I suppose, co-producing it with important local community groups, local authority, and so on, to sort of really tailor your offer. And secondly, obviously, how we can encourage this activity to really be embedded throughout the student experience, not just those from the more residential traditional backgrounds, but across the student body, as we know that's so important for things like belonging and tackling loneliness, and of course advancing social capital. So I think projects like this tick all those boxes, which is absolutely brilliant. So anyway, we've got some fantastic questions, so do keep bringing them in. We've got about 15 minutes left on a range of topics. So Fiona, Sim, I might come to both of you. Just to sort of kick it off, I suppose there's some questions here around how do you effectively engage with students to sort of take the forum seriously, I suppose, and also from questions like from Joanne from Solon to ensure that they're effective and so forth.
Yeah, I think this is a great question. And certainly, I think thinking about your student engagement strategy is probably one of the biggest challenges as part of this event, but also one of the greatest rewards that you'll get from the end of it. So I think it really lies in your planning of this event. So if you can engage some students and some kind of advocates early in your planning, so that might mean having a conversation with your student union, thinking about your sabbatical reps, perhaps thinking about your officers that you have, people that are already really engaged and that are really keen and passionate about this work, can really support you to kind of think about networks, to think about channels to reach other students. They might have different ideas about kind of ways to reach students as well. Something that we did on campus actually with Marish and Chandan is they spent a bit of time on campus just having conversations with students, and I think we as staff can talk all day about how great these things are, but I think when it comes peer-to-peer, when it comes from student to student, it is a hugely valuable opportunity to kind of spark that interest and spark that conversation. So anywhere that you can think about, who can help in this work and be your student advocates, whether that is student leaders that you have as part of your activities, a sabbatical officer, whether that is a rep in your student union, whether that is course leads. So something that we thought about with our Birmingham event was kind of thinking about key departments that it would impact. So health, well-being, business. It might be that actually there's some great course reps as part of those activities that would be interested in getting involved. So I think being really specific about which students you think should come to the event, about how you kind of get the word out about that, about how you kind of really early on engage students who are already really passionate about this work, and kind of taking that forward. Sim, would you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I think that covered quite a broad spectrum there. I think more specifically in the toolkit, we talk about doing a Pathfinder event to kind of shape the challenge that you want to work on. That can very easily also be applied to the stakeholders that you want to bring in. So can you bring together some of those stakeholders? Because you might feel that, okay, we've got some interest from the Students' Union or course reps or any of those students that Fiona mentioned, but actually there are layers of engagement for students, and actually bringing that first layer in to start having that conversation around engagement can then filter out. And I guess the other thing that I'd share is that this piece, just to emphasize this piece around who the message is coming from, there is just so much benefit. And we've seen this both through the One Community Forum, but kind of the whole breadth of our activities. This message comes so much better from students to students. Marish and Chandan were fantastic as kind of recent graduates, current students, in being able to vocalize what we were trying to say in a way that students would understand, and having them be a part of kind of designing the forum with us, thinking about what that engagement and comm strategy look like, and then being the ones to go out and do it, had so much benefit to the delivery of that activity, but also for them as individuals as well, supporting their kind of growth and development. So yeah, just that.
Great, thank you. There's a couple of questions around how the makeup of these forums. So one from Phil Simcock from Royal Holloway, talking about what would the ideal makeup of the guest list for the forum, i.e. equal number of community students, university or more community perhaps. And then similarly, there's a question from Debbie from the Civic University Network, who said how the, specific example, the Birmingham community groups identified, and how did you sort of manage expectations as to realistic next steps? So I suppose it's that, those questions both around how do you convene the right balance and identify the right groups externally and internally.
Yeah, great questions. I think in terms of the makeup, if you can, as Phil suggests, if you can get equal numbers in all categories, that is brilliant. That can be really tough. So I think in the toolkit we talk about, when you're thinking about actually designing your activities as part of the forum, I would say you should expect to have at least one student per table. So thinking about, how students can be inputting into that conversation really actively in the groups that you design. I think it's great to kind of have, again, like equal numbers if you can, for community and university, to really make sure that there's active conversation there, and actually picking up on Sim's point that she made previously, thinking about your activities both pre and post forum. So it might be that you say, actually, we know we have to run the forum at a really challenging point of year. We know that we're not going to perhaps get as much student engagement as we would like. How else are you seeking and soliciting that information? Again, Mewish and Chandan did a lot of work on campus, having conversations and capturing those of students outside of the forum. We've put together consultation forms in the past as well to kind of capture information, and all of that can feed into the forum and you can present that back. So I guess being creative, and if you know that you're going to have a deficit somewhere where all the numbers aren't as strong as I would have liked in this area, what can you proactively do to kind of go find that information that you could then present at the forum? And thinking about Debbie's question, how were the groups identified for the forum? This is where your theming, I think, is so important. And as I said at the start, I think getting the theming appropriately, I guess smart, as you would say, kind of having a smart goal around that is really helpful, because it will help you to understand who, what, where, why. So I think there was also a question in here around what constitutes community? How do you know kind of like what you're reaching? And again, I think the beauty of the forum is that is for you to decide. So our Birmingham event is a great example where UCB is situated within the Jewellery Quarter in Birmingham. That is a great kind of local area, lots going on there. Birmingham is a huge city, as I'm sure you all know. So actually, in the initial kind of scoping, when we were thinking about our stakeholders and who we wanted at this event, we focused really specifically on the Jewellery Quarter to say, actually, this is the immediate community that is on University College Birmingham's doorstep. What is it that we can support with these individuals? And then we kind of went a bit broader out to look across Birmingham. So I think you can really decide for yourself, what does community mean in this context for you? Is it the immediate kind of streets around your university? Is it the whole city that you operate in? Is it actually regions? Like we have delivered this event across, our hub network, which is spans quite a way across the south. But that was really interesting because we got to hear perspectives from multiple institutions and multiple kind of, geographical landscapes. So there's no reason why you couldn't also say, I know that there's a local university in the city. There's two of us. Let's do this together. Let's collaborate and kind of think about a citywide initiative across, both or multiple institutions. Sim, anything to add on that one?
Yeah, I'll try and address the other point of that question, which was around managing expectations as to realistic next steps. And I think the answer is you already know how to do that. It's just having the time to have those conversations. And that's hopefully what the toolkit will allow you, because it's kind of all structured there as a tick box exercise to go through. Okay, have I done this? Have I done this? in order to do that managing expectations piece, you need to have the time to sit down and have conversations. And whether that is through email updates, through kind of briefings before the forum, debriefs afterwards, those are the bits that help manage expectations. And I think it also allows you to kind of humanize the relationship you then have with kind of students and community partners. So really, it's about having the time to sit down and to do that work and do it consistently.
Yeah, particularly thinking about student engagement, and that's something we recommend in the toolkit, is where students, we've had students before actually acting as kind of facilitators or chairs as part of their group tables. I did that in our event in Southampton, and that was brilliant, worked really well. But I would say the only reason that worked really well is because I had done the prep work and support with the students. So to help them to really understand what their role was, what we were looking to achieve, I guess managing that kind of anxiety that might be there, thinking about, you know, this could be a really scary event for a student if they've never gone into this type of environment before. So really making sure that you've kind of done that initial support work with the student to help them get the most out of it, to enjoy the event, and particularly if they're acting in a leadership capacity, if they're taking notes that you'll use later, really making sure they understand their role and their responsibility as part of that. But again, I think if you do it well, all of it is such a great development opportunity for students, and it's, you know, there is real opportunity there to involve students in this work in a really meaningful way. So it starts with setting expectations. I would agree, Debbie, and building that in is something we try to talk about in the toolkit, but also is something we really strongly recommend.
Brilliant, thanks Fiona and Sim. So there's at least 3 themes more that I've got in these questions, so thank you for bringing in these questions. The next one, and we've got about 7 minutes left, is around making sure you're engaging, I suppose, disadvantaged students, community, the right people in the community who are less likely to take advantage perhaps of these opportunities and benefiting from it. And how do you get the right sort of students or communities for the right subject topics and mix and things like that? So there's 3 elements to that there. Fiona, I don't know if you want to take that, or Sim.
Yeah, happy to start and hand over to Sim. Again, I think something that we typically do as part of a One Community Forum and how we kind of start this work is we don't typically launch straight into event planning. We try to build what we call kind of stakeholder map, to think about, you know, we map against the community and really understand what are the organizations that are working in these spaces. If we have a particular theme, say for example educational attainment, how can we kind of really be quite clear about what organizations are already doing and delivering that type of work, because we want to make sure that we're not duplicating that. And actually those people are the experts. Those people are who should be informing our practice and our kind of interest in this. So really kind of taking I guess that that mindset around how can we go in with a really open mind to hear what you know, those people want to say, thinking really clearly about how you how you kind of curate that guest list, but also thinking about, you know, how communities can support you as well to do that work, in terms of if you start to build up those relationships and those conversations with those individuals at different organizations, you can ask them, who should we be speaking to? Who else is doing great work in the community that we should be bringing into this? So really thinking about, you know, seeing your community as the experts and going out and kind of soliciting and seeking that information from them. Sim, anything else to add on that? I feel like I haven't covered all of that question.
Spoke very well on communities there, Fiona. I think I'll touch a bit on students. And I think for the majority of us that work in the sector, kind of student engagement is kind of the bane of our existence. There is just always challenges, and we're never going to reach everybody. I think there are lots of different ways that you can incentivize students, and they will work for different demographics. We can think about things like paying students for their time, whether it's being inbuilt as part of other activities and opportunities that are available. But I think it really starts with having a really good understanding of the demographics of your institution. And I think that it also is around thinking about where those students are based. We're making kind of this general topic of conversation around students, we're making a very big assumption that students are on campus, that students are there every day, like having an understanding of what not only the demographics of your student body are, but what the kind of day-to-day routine looks like for them so that you're better able to reach them. There are different methods that we've used to engage students. And I think the ones that work the best are part of that pre-work we were talking about. So Chandan and Marish were on campus just talking to students in places where they were hanging out. And again, building up that relationship with them to then support students to understand what was going on, and then feel comfortable and confident that if they were to come along to an event like the forum, that they would be listened to. So I think, it's just thinking about where are those touch points, both in the kind of real space of your campus, but also in the kind of online network of your institutions, and how are you building the time to do that work? Because that is the stuff that takes the longest, is having those conversations to support individuals to feel comfortable. That might not have also answered that question completely, but hopefully it gives a bit of a starting point.
I have a follow-up to that as well, which was a point actually that Marish made, which was around language. And I think really thinking very, very carefully about the language that you use to deliver these activities and how you talk about them with students. So an example actually from some of our work, both sort of in Oxford and in Southampton, we act sort of in youth engagement and thinking about kind of specifically supporting young people with physical activity was something that we were trying to achieve. And what we learned through that experience was that sport was a really terrible word to use, because actually it was really isolating and really put people off. But when we reframed it as active, we saw a lot more student engagement. We saw a lot more kind of student take up of that activity. So thinking very carefully and really kind of asking critical questions about assumptions that you might have made around the language you're using, how you're describing these activities, because it might be even the word volunteering is incredibly challenging and can be really off-putting. And something that Marish spent a lot of time in this project talking to students about was the fact that they might be doing some form of volunteering, but they didn't class it as that. They didn't describe it as that. So thinking very carefully about that. And again, there's no easy solutions. It will take a bit of time. It will take a bit of digging. But I think that's the beauty of this forum, is you learn so much, and all of it, regardless of what your theme or topic is going to be helpful in terms of framing your other activities and your other kind of opportunities around student and community engagement.
Brilliant, thank you, Fiona. Two more questions, one for Sim, one for you, Fiona, before we close. I think we've got a minute left, so we'll have to keep our answers a little bit short. Sim, there's a question here around embedding this within the curriculum and the sort of approach to service learning and things like that. And I know you've done some research on that, haven't you, in the past? So it'd be interesting from your perspective on ways that the forum can aid that or otherwise.
Yes, we do not have another hour for me to get into this. Yes, I definitely think the activities we've discussed can be embedded in the curriculum. It really then comes into how that partnership piece for communities is really embedded in there, because when we move things into the curriculum, the focus then really heavily shifts on students and what that credit looks like and how we're engaging them. Great way to get students from all backgrounds engaged, but then making sure that community organizations, participants feel that they are being given the same amount of attention, that their voice is heard as well. So I think, yes, definitely can be in that model. And I think there's a beauty in these things existing together, both in the curriculum and extracurricular. You will get a much wider spectrum of engagement from both students and community organizations from doing so. I'm gonna have to stop myself there because I'll go on forever.
Brilliant, thank you, Sim. And then Fiona, last word from you on this. Some questions around outcomes. So what added value, I suppose, has the One Community Forum brought? What's additionality compared to what was already happening? And what are the sort of things that have emerged from these forums that I suppose you're really proud about?
Yeah, absolutely. So outcomes wise, again, I think the really tangible stuff is not just in the outputs from the event of terms of like how many people came and sort of how long it went on for, but really the activities that you then scale as a result of that. So thinking about, we've heard about educational attainment. What can we now do in the community really practically to deliver that, to support schools, to support young people? What initiatives can we launch, whether that's one-off volunteering, whether that's maybe longer term activities? And the value really comes from there in terms of how many students you can engage, how many young people or participants you can engage, how many kind of stakeholders from the university were involved. So that's where I say the value comes in, and that doesn't happen immediately after the forum. That is in the journey map piece of the 3 months, the 6 months, the 12 months down the line. So I think that's where it's really important that when you're creating this event, you really understand what am I trying to achieve, and you take a much longer term approach to that piece. What was your second point, Richard?
The sort of added value, and then the sort of initiatives or the things that you're most proud of that have come out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say I think our work during COVID was brilliant, and really kind of understanding the nuance in kind of an issue like educational attainment, and really kind of understanding that it wasn't just about students in schools. Actually, the issue was much wider, and being able to really kind of mobilize resource for everything that kind of surrounded that issue, and not just sending students into schools to tutor, which was brilliant, but we added so much capacity to other initiatives in the city by taking that lens and looking at it differently. And I would say our work in the last couple of years with Leeds Conservatoire and with University College Birmingham has been really brilliant, particularly thinking about them being smaller institutions that are thinking about knowledge exchange and are thinking really actively about how they can do more in the community. I think this format really lends itself to being able to kickstart that strategy and being able to really get those conversations going both internally and externally, which is brilliant.
Brilliant. Thank you, Fiona. Thanks so much to you, to Sim, to Shandon, to Marish for your contributions today. It's been absolutely fascinating and brilliant. And thank you everybody else for attending the launch of the toolkit. You can download that from the UPP Foundation website. It also is going to be sent to you on a PDF to all attendees of this event today. Please, just a reminder, do sign up to all of our newsletters. Do look out for when the next Civic University event